Great. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic World Sustainable Procurement Day. There's been so many sessions so far, really inspiring stuff. And I know we've got the whole of the rest of the 20th of March to come as well. So welcome to the next session. It's 3 p.m. here in the UK where I'm sitting. Welcome to the rest of those joining from around the world as well. So we'll step onto the next slide and start this next session. Christina, are you able to move us to the next slide? I'll keep talking. I'm hoping Christina's in the background. There we go. Great. Thank you very much, Christina. So this session is about the power of collaboration, something that from the SPP Pharma Chapter, that's the Sustainable Procurement Pledge Pharma Chapter, is really important for driving forward for a sustainable future. By collaborating, we can give common voices to our suppliers. By collaborating, suppliers in our supply chains can see that we all have the same intention. Many customers' voices are more powerful than one alone. And so the capability building we're going to talk about now to unlock supply chain engagement is a fundamental tool to achieve those 2030 goals, which are now kind of only about 70 months away past the midpoint in the decade as we are today. Next slide, please. Great. So we've got a fantastic panel. We have Maria from Pfizer, who's my co-chair at the Sustainable Procurement Pledge Pharma Chapter. Myself, Rob Williams, Director of Sustainable Procurement from AstraZeneca and also Chair of the Pharmaceutical Supply Chain Initiative. We have Diane from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. We have Aline from AB InBev, and we have Marie from Lonza, giving us great reflections on the experiences and the partnerships that we've all done throughout our time in sustainable procurement and working with Sustainable Procurement Pledge and the various organizations we represent. Next slide, please. Really important reminder, you'll have seen this already today, but taking part in these sessions, you need to be aware of antitrust issues and how to avoid them. And you'll see in the 5 bullets below some of the key rules that apply throughout the event about discussions, no discussions in terms of costs, sales plans, no discussions of pricing, commercially sensitive information, competes, and within obviously staying within the limits of the agenda of the session. So a really important reminder, and importantly, those are kind of captured and broadly reflected in the SPP's netiquette at the bottom there as well. So something to remember. Let's move on to the next slide. And again, a reminder, and actually a really useful reminder of the YouTube channel SPP has. There's already some great video sessions on there to catch up on all of the different parts of the work that Sustainable Procurement Pledge do across many of the pillars, regional groups, as well as topic-specific groups. So yeah, take a look at the session recording on the YouTube channel. Interact with the community in the chat on the right, connect with us, SPP Pharma on LinkedIn and SPP on LinkedIn more generally. And then, as it says there, if you're not already part of the community, do join the community, become an ambassador for SPP and help drive sustainable procurement throughout your industry, the pharma industry, whichever sector it is you're joining from today. Next slide, please. And so in terms of setting the scene, I'll do a few minutes on just walking through the background, and then I'll be handing to Diane from WBCSD, who'll talk through a great case there with the climate drive, a really important tool, and the link for that is in the chat. And then again, best practice steering. My colleague Maria from Pfizer, SPP Pharma Chapter, talking to Lonza about the journey that they've been on. Finally, some Q&A and a wrap-up, really importantly summarising what's next for SPP Pharma and the sessions you can expect from the Sustainable Procurement Pledge Pharma community during this year. So without further ado, we'll go on to setting the scene. And a poll, first of all. So really, we know that lots of people are at lots of different stages with engaging suppliers. And we know that people are using different tools, different approaches to engage suppliers. So we've got a poll here. So please click on the screen, engage with the poll to really give us some insights into what tools are you using, what approaches are you using, how are you thinking about supplier engagement today? And I think we'll just leave that for a minute or so for people to access the vote, access the poll, and to get some results. I'm just going to guess as to whether the polls come up on screen or on the sidebar. I think I've got to create a poll on the side here. So we've got various options. Do you invite suppliers to collaborative programs? Do you invite suppliers to listen to case studies of your own successes with your suppliers that you're then sharing with others, to training, to webinars? Do you use that call to action, letters from your chief procurement officer or your CEO to suppliers to really emphasize the need for action with support right from the top of your business? Do you embed those requirements in tenders, in RFPs, and in contract terms? Do you drive them through individual meetings, or perhaps you've not started engaging yet? And again, we're aware that many people are at different stages of the journey. So I think we'll give that another 15, 20 seconds. And then if John or others, you think we've got enough responses to that, we can maybe just share some initial reaction then we can use to reflect on during the rest of the session. Great. Okay. Well, we've got some responses in there, and I think if you scroll up and down on the screen, hopefully everybody can do that to see how you're engaging. So yeah, I think a really broad range there, and great to see very few people, and that we do not engage yet. But I think something in this session for everybody to take away, and for everybody to build on. But otherwise, a really kind of even spread between the use of individual meetings, the use of contracts. Good to see that being strongly represented, because that's ultimately where the rubber hits the road, as we might say, and the invites to collaborative programs, such as this session, clearly featuring strongly as well. So thank you. I think whether that stays open, I don't know, John, but I think let's step on to the next slide and we can take those away. Thank you. Next slide then, please. Thank you. And with thanks to WBCSD for sharing this is the key steps of a supply chain engagement journey. Hopefully this is helpful for those who haven't started, perhaps a useful reminder and a really useful structure for those that have already set the way on a path to decarbonisation of scope 3 by engaging suppliers. So setting that scope 3 target and the internal buy-in, clearly the first thing to do, having that company commitment. Segmenting suppliers, I think most of us, if not all of us, have found is a really useful next step. That's not just by spend, certainly not just by geography, but can also be by maturity, as some suppliers you may have assessments on using various tools that are available. Effective engagement of suppliers. Sending an email doesn't qualify as effective engagement. And so there's some deep thought in there, engaging perhaps comms teams, if you have them within your business, to think about what does effective engagement look like? What do communications campaigns look like that go beyond perhaps the first call, the first email, the first message? And then finally, support for the decarbonisation journey. We often talk in procurement about carrots and sticks. It's about support. Many of us will be mid-contract with suppliers and we'll need them to take action before we can get to RFPs, where perhaps competitive pressures can add to the influence that we're able to have as procurement colleagues as well. So I think a really important slide, really great reminder of a path, and there's many flavours around this, and we're about to hear about two of those flavours. So if we step to the next slide. We'll now talk about two collaborative initiatives, and I think it was just about 21% of people on the call were looking at collaborative initiatives to engage with suppliers, but really two great initiatives, two great approaches that we're going to talk through. Firstly, the Climate Drive, powered by WBCSD, World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And then secondly, a great example from the pharma and life sciences sector between Pfizer and Lonza, talking about the engagement there. So without further ado, that was the intro, and I'm going to hand over to Diane to take us through the next section. Thank you. Diane, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Rob, and very happy to be here today. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Diane from WBCSD, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and I'm very happy to share with you today one collaborative initiative we started a few years ago with several members the Climate Drive. But before that, I also wanted to briefly introduce you to Alini, who is joining me today to share also how we've been collaborating together to engage their suppliers. And she will also share more about her own approach at InBev in terms of how to engage successfully with suppliers, and how it will be inspiring for all of you today. So maybe moving on the next slide, before moving to the discussion with Alini, I wanted to share a few words about WBCSD. WBCSD stands for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. So we are a global community of more than 200 leading businesses, driving system transformation on 3 interconnected platforms. So climate, nature impact, and also equity, social impact. So we work very closely with our members, such as Alini, who is here today from InBev, to support them in accelerating system transformation within the company, but also across value chain. And this is why I'm very also happy to be here today to share about the Climate Drive, which is one initiative we co-shaped with our members to really support value chain capacity building and really closely collaborating with our members on that. So on the next slide, I can share with you a bit more about what's the Climate Drive. And today I also want to share more about how you can use it as maybe procurement professionals with your own suppliers. So the Climate Drive is an open digital platform. So it has been co-shaped with WBCSD members, but it's meant really to be used by any businesses, anyone who wants to take action. And for that, we have 3 main features that you can see here: a guidebook, an action library, and a readiness check that are complementary to each other. The guidebook is really meant to be a tool for any of you who wants to stay on top of the latest best practices of the decarbonization journey for our corporates. It's really explaining step by step what needs to happen, from measuring emissions, setting target, taking action to reduce and report. And we have several languages available. I thought it's great to mention, especially if you want to engage with suppliers around the world. Sometimes language is a barrier. So we have more than 7 available: Portuguese, Spanish, Turkish, and we have traditional and simplified Chinese coming very soon. So really encourage you to use this also maybe as a tool to support capacity building in specific languages. The action library is an exciting piece, and I will come back to this because we had a partnership on that. Also, very happy to do that with the Sustainable Procurement Pledge. But basically, the action libraries is where you can find any type of actions you can take as a business to decarbonize. And what is great is that we also share about the impact, of course, on climate, but on business, to really support the readers to get buying internally and understand what can be also the benefits for the business, because we know it's very important to trigger action. And we also support with implementation. So also explaining what are the first steps to take, also, again, to really support action. And finally, there is a readiness check that is here to be really supporting businesses as a self-assessment to understand readiness to net zero, again, to try to identify progress areas and really act, I would say, as a North Star to guide among the many different standards and initiatives that are related to net zero. So I really encourage you to have a look, go on the climatedrive.org, and maybe you will find also information that might be relevant for you. On the next slide, I wanted to highlight maybe how you can use it for engaging with your suppliers, but maybe even before that, for you as procurement professionals, because I know many of you are joining us today. And there are 3 main ways maybe you can leverage the Climate Drive to support you. First, I mean, it's a great tool to be, I would say, confident that what you're doing as a company and collaborating maybe with your sustainability team as well is always aligned with latest best practices. So, for example, check maybe the guidebook that will also give you a good idea what's when it's to happen. We also have a lot of different action guides in the action library that can support you. It will also help you to get inspired and learn from others. The action library is maybe the best I would say feature for that. We have a lot of content here, and so I really recommend you also maybe to check it out regularly, because we have new contents coming in, especially thanks to also the Sustainable Procurement Pledge. So a lot of great practices you can get inspiration from and implement in your own company. And finally, it might be also very helpful for you to prepare your suppliers conversation. So if you have specifically, I would say, an individual conversation with some of your suppliers that are sector specific, or you want them to really implement something, it might be really good for you to check already on the climate drive what might be relevant for your suppliers, so you can already anticipate their ask and maybe better support them. So here are the few ideas for you to maybe leverage the climate drive as procurement professionals. And finally, I wanted to share also with you how you can use, of course, the climate drive to support your suppliers. And there are two main ways. The first one is embedding, and I really, really encourage you to do that. This is a digital platform, really open, so there's many ways you can include a link to your suppliers toolkit. Maybe you have a supply platforms such as the one Aline will share about in a few minutes from now. But feel free to use the Climate Drive content and embed it where you feel it's needed. This is really meant to be. And so also really happy to share that in a few days. We're going to roll out also specific landing pages, for example, highlighting what are the key levers to source renewables and so on. So this is also one way for you to really have a targeted, I would say, way to engage your suppliers on the Climate Drive's content and upskilling them. And the other way is reward. So what we've been, and this is what I wanted to highlight today, because we've been partnering closely with AB InBev on this. And so our collaboration was to reward best performing suppliers from InBev to publish on the Climate Drive and get global exposure. And so on the next slide, you will get a snapshot of what we've been doing together. But through the Supplier Awards from InBev, Eclipse program, we've been selecting 12 best decarbonization practices from suppliers, and we also reward them awards, three main ones, and one those 12 best decarbonization practices. But you can find all them on the Climate Drive and really get inspired. You will see there are great examples of collaboration across the supply chain. So this is why I'm very, very happy to be here today with Aline to share more about this initiative, but also a bit more about overall how AB InBev is engaging and partnering with the suppliers at scale to successfully decarbonize Scope 3. So Aline, I invite you to join me, and maybe we're going to stop the slides sharing for a minute. So thanks a lot for joining us today, Aline, and we'd love to hear a bit more from you about the great program within AB InBev to engage with suppliers.
First of all, thank you for the invite, Diane, and for the partnership. As always, we've started a long time ago working together, so it's a pleasure to be here as well, sharing with the others how you can engage with WBCSD and with the Climate Drive. Eclipse program is our sustainability program for suppliers, and we've started some years ago. So with the mindset of addressing our climate challenge, although we were very focused on deep decarbonization throughout our global operations, we still had a big challenge to address, that was our Scope 3. Scope 3 represents the greatest opportunities for emissions reductions at ABI because it represents more than 86% of our emissions. This is the data from 2024. So understanding that we would have to transform our entire supply chain and that we couldn't do that alone, we set up this program. So the program was introduced at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. The mindset behind was to engage our suppliers on sustainability, create awareness, first of all, because at the time, I think many suppliers were not even aware of the climate risks that we were facing. So creating awareness, sharing best practices, and building capabilities was the basis of the program. Right now, we have more than 260 suppliers enrolled at the program across all our zones, and we cover more than 30% of our Scope 3 emissions. Through Eclipse, the idea is we can support joint decarbonization. It starts from tailoring actions based on the partner maturity and readiness, but also understanding the very basics, that is, what is the greenhouse gas emissions data. So prioritizing data-driven approach and taking that to ensure accountability, but also to enable partners to measure progress. Of course, this is backed up by upskilling, by capability building, by celebrating best practices, as we are highlighting here today, and also by initiating pilots and collaboration programs together.
Thanks a lot for sharing a great overview of the Eclipse program. Maybe could you share a bit more about the collaboration initiative you've been, from Eclipse, but maybe also other ones connected to how you really engage with suppliers, maybe on renewables, for example?
Yes. So the way we did was, since the beginning, we based our actions and prioritization on data. So that was the basis. So understanding our emissions profile, where we should focus. Back there at the beginning, we already identified and pilot innovative solutions, as for example, the low carbon can. So back in 2021, we were able to launch the low carbon can project in the US with using one of our most important brands, that is Michelob Ultra. And the initiative was very important because it was a pilot on merging renewables, high content, recycled content, and disruptive technologies of production of aluminum. This was a partnership with Rio Tinto and was identified during one of our workshops, Eclipse workshops. This is one example, but we also have a second pillar that is very important for us, that is taking the approach of working in decarbonization levers through programs. The programs are partnerships where we bring together suppliers to discuss these levers. So they are focused on green logistics, focus on how to decarbonize and to reduce energy consumption in manufacturing plants, but also how to implement renewable electricity. One of these programs that we just started at the end of last year is a partnership actually with the Eclipse, with the 100 Plus Accelerator. The 100 Plus Accelerator is an accelerator we've started a couple of years, some years ago, back in 2019 as well, and has accelerated more than 140 startups. And these startups have proven their solutions, and we took the most successful ones. We selected the most successful ones to share with our suppliers for them to consider implementing in their own supply chains. We believe that this would help scale some of these solutions that will address, of course, some of the issues that we all face, as for example, like logistics. The other piece on collaboration, so we have more or less three key pillars. So piloting solutions, scaling solutions through these programs, but also recognizing what is being done. So the way we think is Eclipse is a collaborative ecosystem. So we want to foment that mindset of creating and trying initiatives. So we are encouraging suppliers to share this knowledge, to share best practices, to share experiences, and to foster innovation, basically. So that's about the Global Eclipse Awards. With this mindset, we last year partnered with WBCSD, as Ian mentioned, and the idea was we invited suppliers to share their best practices, and together with WBCSD and the Climate Drive, the team was wonderful and supported us on selecting the best cases. And now I think the biggest opportunity was to bring visibility to the winners. So we brought the solutions, the winner solutions in a public space, that is the Climate Drive, that is available for everyone. But that is also important for the other suppliers to understand and to see that other opportunities are out there and that they can also explore. So I think that is an amazing opportunity. We've been doing Eclipse Awards for a while, but we believe that this public visibility is very important for our suppliers as well. This recognition is very important.
Thanks a lot for sharing. That was really great. I was a different collaborative formats you have highlighted, from workshops where identifying, I would say, decarbonization levels together with suppliers really on the ground, and also those recognition programs. So thanks a lot for sharing. Maybe just to conclude, if you have one last tip you would like to share with the audience today, maybe on setting such, I would say, collaborative initiative, what would you say?
I have many.
Just one.
This is a journey, and I think working with suppliers is a journey and a learning. We are always learning. I would say that prioritizing data-driven approach is very, very important. And the second thing is to be sure that anything that is being built is built within your category strategy. I don't think it can sit alone, because everything that we are doing on sustainability and on climate related topics, it is meant to create and to foment a supply chain resilience. So think about that, because you are shaping your category at the end for the future. So it should be embedded in your category strategy as well.
Thank you so much, Helene. So a great ending. I'm going to now hand over to Maria, who is going to share another great collaboration initiative from the Sustainable Procurement Pledge Pharma Chapter. Handing over to you now, Maria.
Thank you, Diane. And I want to welcome everybody. I see we are more than 250 on the line. Thank you all for joining us. For those who don't know me yet, I am Maria Terracina, Global Sustainable Sourcing Lead at Pfizer and SPP Pharma Co-Chair, together with Rob. For the benefit of the large audience on the line, let me start by reminding what is the Pharma Chapter about. It's for procurement professionals who work in the pharma and life science sector and want to be ambassadors for the climate action to advance together towards our company decarbonization targets, leveraging the power of the community, as you will hear in a minute. If you work for pharma and you're not part of the community yet, please join us today and register. If you can go to the next slide, maybe. So, as you all know, last September, Rob and I relaunched the SPP Pharma Chapter by sparkling the best practice sharing initiative, where we asked our suppliers to share their sustainability stories to inspire and empower the SPP Pharma community, announcing that we would have selected best cases based on predefined evaluation criteria, as you can see on the slide. This initiative was welcomed with enthusiasm by 69 companies who shared 74 case studies around a large variety of topics such as supplier engagement, renewable energy, waste, water, innovative packaging solutions, just to mention a few, which is a fantastic response from so many of you on the line that we want to celebrate again today. 6 cases were selected from companies of different size and reflecting a full variety of programs that can be put in place within sustainable sourcing umbrella. You can read from the slide. I'm not going into the details, but just mentioning the name of the suppliers. So please join me in congratulating again Lonza, Steelcase, Lonza, Fisher, and the QMC group. You can already read the full stories of our winner cases in the guide. What's the guide? It's the SPP tool that serves as a crowdsourcing for the case studies of procurement professionals to navigate, use, and report back lessons learned, playthroughs, and inspirations to set the full community for success. Let me now welcome on stage Marie O'Buehler. Hope I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. Marie, she's the sustainable manager at Lonza, who has been actually the writer of the Lonza case study. And we would like to hear directly from the voice of one of the suppliers who joined our initiatives about their engaging experience. Marie, can you join us? I'm not sure I can see you.
I'm here. I can hear you. Yeah.
Without slides, it's easier so we can see you face to face, like if we were in the same room. So first of all, thank you for joining us. So can you please tell us more about the motivations behind your engagement with this initiative?
Yes. Thanks for having me, first of all. Maybe to explain in 2 sentences, the background, we submitted a case study on our responsible sourcing program and 2 frameworks we set up to guide our own suppliers when it comes to the supplier sustainability and decarbonization expectations that we have towards them. And so now to answer your question of why we decided to engage and submit our case study, I think the first motivation is really because we see best practice sharing as a key method to drive positive impact. So it's something that we do a lot with our own suppliers as well. We have on one hand side, I would say, more structured ways of training suppliers through capability building platform, e-learnings, webinars. But a lot of the times we really have one-to-one discussions with them, exchanges where we can learn from them and they can learn from us depending on who has what expertise. So just the overall approach of sharing now also best practices with peers is something that resonates with the way we work. So that was one of the key motivators to participate. And the other one was the recognition aspect. So the fact that it was also framed as awards. And I think for us in our responsible sourcing team, we kind of know why we do this work, but it's very nice recognition also for all our procurement colleagues that lead these discussions on a daily basis with their suppliers, that drive engagements, to see that, okay, this is recognized by a peer group and also by some companies that are customers, shows them the value of why we're doing these responsible sourcing activities.
Thank you. So before we move on with the conversation with Marie, I do read from the chat that you cannot hear me correctly, and maybe this is not due to internet, but maybe due to my diverse voice, if you like. But maybe if you open the closed captions, maybe it will help to understand what I'm saying. I'm sorry for that. It's just my voice. So let's continue, Marie, with our next question. So what were the benefits that your company gained from responding, if any? What did it unlock?
What were the benefits? So I think 2 of them I mentioned already, and the recognition piece was an important one. For me, it was also beneficial to just hear what the others had to say because I then also attended the 2 sessions where the winning cases were presented. And I think it was pharma suppliers, but the type of case studies were very diverse in the end. As you mentioned, Maria, we had large companies, we had small companies, we had different topics. So nice to attend also to get a bit of inspiration and learnings on what other companies are doing. For me, a little bit the takeaways that I take or the things that we want to transpose now for Lonza would be to also organize supplier awards. This is something that we've been thinking of already, and now our responsible sourcing program exists since a few years, and we have suppliers that have built a lot of work around this topic. So it really makes sense to also give them the possibility to receive this recognition, just like we did. And we're also thinking of organizing our second supplier day next year. In the first one, we actually had a customer join and explain to our suppliers why responsible sourcing is important to them as well. And I think it could make sense in the next one maybe to have suppliers join and talk a bit either about best practices or the collaboration with Lonza and enable their supplier peers to hear from their experiences.
Thank you. So maybe now a provocative questions. Would you do it again? Would you again submit your case studies and when?
Well, we won, so yeah, I guess I would do it again. No, but we always try to contribute where we can a little bit. So we're also part of other peer groups. One of them is Together for Sustainability Initiative. There we also supported in setting up trainings on sustainable procurement and on decarbonization because that's topics where we feel we can contribute expertise. We also set up, as part of the UNGC group, a session on the Swiss due diligence law. So I think it's very important in the sustainability sphere to be able to learn from each other, to have a collaborative approach. We try to contribute and share because we know that we will benefit from our suppliers becoming more mature and engaged on these topics. And also, we benefited already so much from benchmarking with peers and learning from others. So I could definitely imagine to submit a case study again, maybe in 1-2 years, when we have new projects in our responsible sourcing program that we feel are worth sharing.
Sure. Thanks, Marie. Maybe a last question as we are running out of time. Do you plan to publish your story in the climate drive as well, as we heard from Diana that there is this great opportunity?
Yeah, so interestingly, actually, we already have a case study in the climate drive, but it's not the procurement one. It's from one of our divisions. They optimize the solvent recycling and recovery process. So it's really some waste reduction and emissions reductions project. So yeah, they already contributed the story to the climate drive. And yeah, I could definitely imagine also uploading the responsible sourcing one as a second one. So Diane, I'll keep you
Thank you so
posted.
much, Marie. It was great to chat with you and to have your perspective, which of course we will take into consideration for future initiatives. So let me proceed and continue with our conversations. Maybe it would be great to have the slides again so the audience can follow what I'm trying to say. So let me share that in full transparency. It was really hard to make a selection out of the 74 case studies, given the high number of amazing stories that have been submitted. Therefore, while we awarded the 6 winners in parallel, we worked with SPP to publish much more for the benefit of our procurement professionals who are seeking inspiration in their decarbonization journey. And here we are with exciting breaking news. I am thrilled to announce that additional 47 success stories submitted for the SPP best practice sharing initiatives have been selected for publication in the guide in the next few weeks. The link, so now I would ask please that the QR code and the link is shared in the chat so that you can look immediately who has been selected while you open it. And while we found who are all the other selected case, I would really ask you to give all of us a big round of applause for participating, for having been selected, and for all what you shared. So let's celebrate ourselves now. Kudos for reaching these milestones and to enrich the guide with a dedicated section called Beyond the Guide, a deep dive in life science supply chain, which has been developed a few days ago just for you. But there's more. All cases published in the guide will add the additional unexpected opportunity to be rearranged for publication in the climate drive that I have referred on, and enlarging this way the potential audience we will reach for an even greater extent. But let's go to the next slide. Is this all about a past opportunity? Not at all. If you have not shared your story yet, watch out. The SPP space as new opportunities to post your story will come later on in May. This said, and to close with, let's engage now all together in a final question for this session. What are the collaborative resources or initiatives you are recommending to actively support suppliers? This is not a poll. You're just free to write your response in the chat. I would really welcome what massive participation to understand what are the different initiatives you're doing, you're recommending. don't see anything in the chat yet. But well, in the interest of time, I would hand over back to Jan to facilitate the Q&A session.
Thank you, Maria. And yes, please do not hesitate. I'm taking a few questions to add anything in the chat to help others. Maybe you found out great resources you'd like to share. There's a lot out there, so please do not hesitate to put them into the chat. So I've seen a few questions in the chat, so there might be, I was thinking maybe for Marie and Aline, but maybe one for you, Aline, if you're still here. We'd love to hear from you. How long should Procurement expect it to take to get significant supplier engagement? Maybe from your own experience, how did it work out? Maybe from starting to look at your GHG, your supply chain, to getting data and engaging suppliers to reduce and report. How long does it take on your side? It's a question from Andrew.
Thank you. I actually think immediately. We actually saw great results coming in immediately, as long as they understand, the suppliers understand why you are asking them and what that contributes. We saw immediately results either on engagement and implementation of activities, but also even on the measurement process. We actually saw that emissions coming from suppliers were much better than the ones that we used before in our inventories, because we used to use secondary data from industry standards. So taking a primary data approach, we've seen even improvements on our own emissions reduction immediately.
Thanks a lot for sharing. I'm gonna ask you, or maybe also Marie, if you're still here, we'd love to hear from you about how you're maybe engaging with small and medium enterprises. This is a question from Mark. How do you support them in decarbonizing? This is also something very important. We're supporting the SME climate proofing campaign as well as part of WBCSD. So I don't know if one of you want to share.
Yeah, sure. I can share what we do. So here, for small and medium companies, this is exactly what I was mentioning. Usually a bit more one-on-one coaching and support is needed, especially, I mean, there's some small companies that have a very clear strategy and efforts and they know what they're doing, but typically it's either or. So you also have a lot of companies that haven't started in their sustainability journey. So here we try to engage with them and share also a lot of resources to support them. So that could be simple things like sharing policy templates, reporting templates that they can use to start building also their internal management systems on sustainability. We now partnered with a tool called Emitwise that helps suppliers of all sizes, but that helps them calculate easily their scope 1 and 2 emissions. So this measurement of the baseline is, of course, the first step towards then reducing. So this is a very nice resource also for SMEs, and we provide this for free. Yeah, so basically we try to help them by also investing resources, whether it's in manpower from our side or these platforms and templates to help them make these first steps.
Thanks a lot, Marie. And just maybe drop also a link into the chat to the SME Climate Hub, which is also a great resource. And I believe also Emitwise, I put this free carbon estimate tool for SMEs as well on the SME Climate Hub. So also maybe worth looking at this one if you want to engage with SME suppliers. Thank you so much, Aline and Marie, for your answers. I think we're going to move on to the next parts. And so I'm going to hand over to you, Rob, to share what's next in your SPP chapter.
You are indeed, and thank you very much. It's a couple of fantastic case studies and some great questions and responses in the chat as well. And I think, you know, from my experience, SMEs, as you said, Diane, can be ahead of many of the larger companies as well as so. But I think some great points you make about the SME Climate Hub, Climate Drive, great resources for people to move forward fast. So what's next in the SPP chapter as we close this? So thank you to all the presenters. Thank you to all the case studies that were submitted to the SPP Pharma chapter as well. And lots of those now being shared out to help inspire others to make change happen faster, which is what we all need to do. So you can see on screen, we're bringing in some other collaborations. other collaborations that are already established and used across pharma or the pharma supply chain to support suppliers. So on the 13th of May, we've got a presentation by Energize, which is also supported and endorsed by the Pharmaceutical Supply Chain Initiative. That's an initiative that's been running for 4 years now, supporting suppliers to sign up to use renewable electricity, importantly, often from new to the planet renewable generation, as we need more renewable power to decarbonize the whole pharma sector. Really great presentation there by the team from Schneider Electric and PSCI on what the Energize program is about. Join that to find out why to invite your suppliers. In July, My Green Lab, for those who operate pharmaceutical laboratories, operational laboratories, wet labs, My Green Labs provide a great program. The program called Converge is where many pharma companies have come together to help suppliers engage with My Green Labs to drive not just energy reductions and carbon reductions, but waste reductions and people engagement. So a fantastic program there that's also tied into the UN Race to Zero as one of the breakthrough outcomes for pharmaceuticals by 2030. Then fantastic to be partnering with Together for Sustainability in September. Together for Sustainability represent the chemicals industry, key supply chain partners for the pharmaceutical industry. They're doing a huge amount on sustainability through to product carbon footprints and really providing the detail that we need to footprint and accurately forecast how we need to reduce carbon in the pharmaceutical supply chain. So that's great. And then there'll be a session in November on social value procurement, remembering that ESG is because it's environment, social and governance. So we're broadening the spectrum in November with a social value focus. So thank you all for the time. Look forward to the rest of the day. Great to have so many of you on the call, and look out for the recording on YouTube. And again, join us on LinkedIn to spread the word and grow the community. And if you're not already an ambassador, there was a question in the chat earlier. There's no cost to joining SPP as an ambassador personally. So go ahead and do that. Sign up now and take part in these events in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As CPO of AstraZeneca, I'm proud that we set one of the most ambitious Scope 3 supplier engagement targets in the pharmaceutical and life science sector. And as a result, at the end of last year, 68% of our spend was channeled through suppliers who are committed to SBTi, which means that 1 in 8 of all the companies on SBTi register are AZ suppliers. Since we joined SPP, we have trained our team in the skills they need to deliver on these targets. And we all face similar challenges within procurement. So working with other companies in the SPP network is helping us build an ecosystem of sustainable procurement knowledge. By doing so, we will maintain our positive decarbonization trajectory and our commitment to build a healthy future for people, for society, and the planet.